Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are going to be doing a movie review for the film Karen. And I did a trailer breakdown of this piece of garbage before, and it's not really shocking to me that the movie was as bad as it was. Now, this is a BET original film. It aired on that network, and I believe it is still currently exclusive to that network. And it stars a cast of people that you probably haven't heard of, but Taryn Manning plays the lead character, the Karen, quote unquote. I shouldn't say lead character, but the main antagonist, basically. Um, and she is the main antagonist to Cory Hardrict, who plays a man named Malik, and a his wife and or girlfriend, Jasmine Burke, as Imani. She also apparently has an equally racist and violent brother named Officer Wind, who is a police officer, because of course, named Roger Dorman. And this movie is an exercise in kind of what would happen if like the idea of doing a Karen movie is kind of ridiculous in and of itself. It's not really something that I think many people were clamoring for, at least not in a serious way. Like I could see this being played for laughs. Like if you wanted to do a movie like this, I could definitely see it being played for comedy over some kind of a drama, which is what they try to make it into, or a thriller, I guess. But it's kind of like that idea of like, okay, you made a thriller out of the bitchy neighbor. And this movie, when I actually finished watching it, reminded me a lot of the movie Cuck. And the reason why it reminded me of that is because the main character is 100. I shouldn't say the main character necessarily, but the character that we kind of follow through a lot of the movie, the Karen, or the antagonist in this case, is very similar to Ronnie from Cuck in the sense that they are both completely unlikable and unredeemable characters, and by the end of the story, they are trying to kill the people that they perceive as their intended oppressors, or whatever you want to call it. Um, Now, Taryn Manning, this movie is a little bit tongue in cheek, which I think may have come from the writer and not the director. The director seems to have taken this very seriously, but I think it's very clear by the dialogue that the writer took this as kind of a tongue in cheek joke type of thing. I believe there's actually a line, if I remember, in the movie that they say Karen is a Karen. And by the way, her actual character name is Karen. Karen Drexler, to be more specific. She does apparently her husband. I can't remember exactly if they mentioned that her husband killed himself or if he just left, but the husband is not in the picture. And she has two children: a son who is in his late teens, it appears, even though I think the actor in it is probably in his 20s, and a daughter who's roughly the age of 10 to 11. Now, this whole film. Um, is just a complete train wreck of crap. Like Taryn Manning as the Karen character is almost cartoony, but it's played very seriously. It's like, this is one of those things where she threatens to get people removed from a restaurant, or she calls the police because some kids are playing basketball down the street and they're making noise. Or she knocks over the neighbor's trash can because she doesn't like the neighbors. Like, none of this is threatening, and Taryn Manning as this character is not threatening, which is something that you really need for a thriller. Now, people can look at other stuff too, like Misery, for example, with James Caan and Kathy Bates. Great movie, directed by Rob Reiner. And the thing is with that movie is that Kathy Bates is threatening because, you know, uh, James Caan has been injured and he's strapped to a bed. He is a prisoner of her will, and she can do what she wants to him. And we know that. We know that he can't escape because he has broken legs. And again, we know that in the scene where she has the sledgehammer and she re-breaks his legs. But that's the thing is that movie knew how to make it so that Kathy Bates was intimidating, and Kathy Bates was a legitimate threat, and you actually feared for James Caan's life in that film. In this movie, it's like, oh, well, Cory Hardrick's character can just punch Taryn Manning in the face and be done with it. It's like the reason why how they try to make her threatening in the movie is that they link her with this like really corrupt cop who I believe they mention is her brother. And he's played by Roger Dorman, and basically, or she has a connection with him somehow. I don't know if he's actually her brother, but she has some kind of a connection where basically she could just call him and he'll come down and he'll mess with people for whatever reason. And that's basically her muscle. That's her threateningness is that cop. But at the same time, they also make Karen and Officer Wind both completely unlikable characters. Because Officer Wind is basically hated by his partner and hated by the rest of the police department, and the fact that he hasn't been removed from being a police officer is a bit shocking. And Taryn Manning's character, it's not just, again, this is kind of another weird point I had with this movie where they make her specifically a racist. But I understand because BET, because they have to do their little checkmark thing for whatever they want to put on there. You know, that's why you have the police brutality angle, and that's why you have the whole thing where she's a racist. But I always assumed the Karen thing was just, she's just a bitch to everyone. Like, it's a natural bitchiness. It's not directed specifically at one group or another. She's just a bitch to everyone. And in this movie, they make it very specific that she pretty much hates all black people. She's very racist. And one of the funniest scenes is actually when Cory Hardrict is in her house and he's using her bathroom and he finds the Confederate flag plastered on a soap dispenser, of all things, like a liquid soap dispenser in her bathroom. And like, why would you find it there? Of all places. Like, it would make more sense if they had this scene where he got, like, really curious and he went in her bedroom and he found this, like, flag that was, like, folded up under her bed. Like, that would have been a much better way to execute that scene. But no, it's just there on the soap dispenser because apparently that's that's how they wanted to handle this. Which is kind of ridiculous because it's kind of, again, it's one of those things, it's kind of out in the open. It's like, oh, I want to be reminded every time I wash my hands of, you know, either the Confederate flag or the Dukes of Hazzard. But yeah, no, there are definitely some ridiculous scenes in this that I feel like were written for comedy in the script, but in the movie they were played completely serious. The other thing is that the Karen character by the end of the movie has gone to the point where she is willing to kill these people. Now that is the part of the movie that gets to the point where it goes from being an annoying film, and I do mean that literally, like this film is just cringe from almost beginning to end. The Karen character herself is cringe. I mean, if you're into watching Karen videos on the internet, like Karen compilations, then you might like this movie. But it basically just takes those videos and turns them into film scenes. You know, the scene where she's being taped calling the police on people that aren't doing anything wrong. Or a scene where she's, you know, at her, you know, book club or whatever. It's the neighborhood, whatever it is. I forget exactly what it was. It was kind of like, not the neighborhood watch, but like the homeowners association, I guess. And all the homeowners people hate her. That's the other thing, too. Every character in this movie hates Karen, even her kids. And every cop in this, at least the ones that we meet anyway, all hate Officer Wind. So, both of these characters are unlikable, both to the audience and to the other characters in the film. And they're also irredeemable in the fact that they go about this thing seemingly thinking that they're in the right. And the end of this movie, again, ends almost exactly like the movie Cuck, where Karen and her corrupt cop friend are gunned down by the good cop and by Jasmine Burke, the woman who's playing the wife of Cory Hardrick. So it's a weird spiritual successor to that movie, and I can't believe I'm actually saying that out loud. You know, the only thing they're missing is the chronic masturbation scenes and the porn sets. But it is oddly ridiculous what this movie tries to do. Again, I think it would have been better if you had played this for laughs. I think it would have been better if you had played this as almost over the top or scene-chewingly goofy, kind of like a B horror movie, or a cult film or something like that. Something that really kind of resonated in terms of making people laugh at the ridiculousness of it. Like, it is ridiculous. Don't get me wrong. Especially by the end of the movie, it does get ridiculous. But it's not ridiculous in the way that you laugh at it. It's ridiculous in the way that you kind of look at the movie and you're like, what the fuck am I watching? Um, I would not recommend this movie to anybody, by the way. The acting in the movie is good from some characters and not from others. Again, Taryn Manning as the Karen character is almost to the point where she's a caricature of a stereotypical Karen. Like, she's basically, you took the stereotype of a Karen and you made it into a character, and you didn't really add all that much more to it. Cory Hardrick and Jasmine Burke play relatively well off of each other. I didn't really mind them in the movie. They seemed relatively okay, as well as a lot of the other extras. The Roger Dorman cop character is going through the entire movie with the same fucking facial expression as when we first see him, and he never laughs and he never smiles. He just has that same pissed off, angry expression 100% of the time. So I don't even think he's acting. He's just there because he has to be there for a paycheck, I think. But yeah, everybody else outside of those two seems to do a relatively decent job doing their acting. Then the other parts of it are, the camera work, the cinematography, all very basic. Again, it's a television movie. It's not meant to be artsy or anything like that. Or at least I really hope he wasn't aiming at that. But like I said, I feel like there was a very large miscommunication here between the screenwriter and the director, or what the director wanted to do. I feel like if the director wanted to do this in the way that he tried to do it, they should have rewritten the script and they should have gotten rid of the Karen thing. Because the other thing, too, is that, just that point alone, the whole idea of Karen, and you're naming the movie Karen, it's like most people know that as an internet meme. Most people know that as a joke. As a literal joke, like a person who is a joke. And try to turn that into something serious, I think is a bad way to go about it, just because it's not going to work in the way that they want it to work unless it was written differently. So, in closing, this movie is terrible. Like, I sat through this with a few people, but this movie is completely terrible. They do not do a good job at a lot of stuff in this movie. Like I said, some of the acting was pretty good outside of the Karen and the crooked cop, but it's not a good movie. I wouldn't say sit down and watch it unless you're a masochist and you want to watch cringe for an hour and a half, 2 hours. But that's just kind of my opinion. I want to know what you think. Did you see the Karen trailer? Did you see the movie? What did you think of it? Put your thoughts in the comments below, as usual. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications. Hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?